So welcome everyone to the 170, what are we? 173rd.
100 something.
Oh,
Too
getting too
many.
old for this. No, what?
You're fine.
Welcome to 173rd weekly MLP Drawing Critique School thingy maflob flob. Today we got
Woo.
the ever lovely Ellie Claw.
Hi.
There's a cute pencil case burrowed inside of like a cocoon of fluff.
Hi. No, all my fluff is in vacuum bags.
Oh no. You
I-
gotta get that out of there.
I kind of want to watch the vacuuming process just to watch it go.
All my poor plushies are all squished.
This kills the
I only
plushie.
have one pillow now. I'm upset. I
How
need
can
all
you
the
live?
pillows.
I need like 8.
I
There's,
have 4 pillows.
there's also little Fluffy's eye over here.
Hello.
All right, let's do this. Let's do this live thing. So the first
Arts
picture,
and ponies.
your high is the same note as the start. Oh.
Wait, what?
Interesting. All right, so the same rules apply for all those new faces. Hello, Outrage and Jazz Wolf. Create account.
Hello.
I like that one. Same rules as always. If you have art, please submit it to us. We'll happily critique it. If you have any questions, we'll also take those and try and field them. So the first picture we have up from the subreddit is by the protagonist 30. It's I swear he isn't gay. Not a relevant
Is this
question.
the one on the left?
But yes, this is the one on the left.
Which side? Oh, this is the left, I
Yes.
think.
The blushy horse. Which is the left? I can't help you here. Actually, I can.
If I knew sewing, I
It's the
reckon
one
it's
that
the
doesn't
hand you
have
hold your
head.
needle in, or I don't know which.
I need you to
If you
stick
put
your
your
hands
hands out.
forward, so you're seeing the backs of them, and stick your thumb out. The left makes an L. There you go.
Well, left isn't with an L in Portuguese.
Well, just become not
Oh
Portuguese.
no.
I still have dyslexia, so I don't know which way the L is.
That's a
This is just a
mood.
disaster scene right now.
We're doomed. Yeah.
Okay, I figured it out. It's the one that has the pen is the right one.
Yes.
Well, I think that's your problem. You should be a lefty.
You just look at your hand, it's got a pen in it. Oh, he has the pen.
That's normally how I figure it out. I pretend I'm holding a pencil.
Driving must be an interesting thing for you.
Yeah, yeah. I got the driver. It's like the examiner told me to go left, and I went right, and he was like, "Oh, I could not pass you now, but I'll be nice."
Oh my gosh. No.
Lots of people get their lefts and rights mixed up. Anyway, this pony is looking to the right, and we're gonna do some critique on them.
Right. That's what we're here for.
I'm doing lots of
Oh.
things here. Living Dead decides that square glasses are more attractive.
Yeah.
I'm an oval glasses person, but teach their own.
Oh, glasses are good.
I gotta flex again. Lasers.
Alright, Mr. Robot over there.
Mr. I paid a fortune for his service, and now I want to show off that I got it.
I mean, yeah. It's
Pretty much. I mean, if you bought a
I
new
don't blame
car,
you.
you want to like flash it, right?
Wait, where are these ponytails? They got like a side bit of hair, but then they've also got these like little side braid parts. So like I can't tell like.
Oh, I thought
Over
this
here in
was
the background?
weird.
I love the little bow things in them. Or the little
Yeah, I like that, but I'm trying to figure out like how they're working, because really it should be like this mane here comes down and then falls into one of the pigtails. Because at the moment it doesn't really make sense how it's like overlaid. If that means anything. I don't know if you guys agree, but just like where it's sitting in the background, I can't quite figure out like where it's coming out from. We've got like 2 different layers of hair that have been turned on.
Yeah. Well, the hair is built up in layers. And I think they're just
Yeah.
doing like what would be the sort of rat's tail.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like on the back, and then they also have a left one. Maybe.
I do also kind of like CPC what she said. That it could be like a beard, like you know how you can like have a little ponytail beard
Could
thing.
be.
I think
Oh yeah, it could
in
be.
general for character that's pretty cute and different. You don't see many people with like little ponytail beard ponies.
Except for like
Yeah.
dwarves and Vikings.
Yeah.
I would. Okay, I'm gonna need to like lighten this a little bit so we can do our sketchies and just do my jams. I need a color. Edit. There we go. But I'm gonna invert it a bit hard to see. Okay. So how I would do it. If this is like a back thing, I always suck at making these sort of side parts not look totally dumb. But sort of link them together a bit more and exaggerate it, really bring it out. So that you can tell it's there and that it's a different size than this one, which you could then make a little bit smaller. So you can tell that they're different. It is a bit weird if it is a back thing, it's because if there's this like left one and then there's a back one, it's a little bit odd.
I mean,
Just
it's very
because-
tribal because, like, if you look at even Maze mentioned something about Star Wars hair. It's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean, it's definitely a thing. I think it just like threw off my brain because I wanted to see it as like a side one. In which case, just to draw it again, I would do it like this. Have this part come into it because then it sort of makes a bit more sense. I don't know what you're going for, but I hope my inane scribblings will help you figure something out. Otherwise, I just went over the face. I gave it a bit more. You don't have to use the exact sort of style. Like I like to stay pretty close to the MLP movie style with a bit of my own sort of flair. But I give the face a bit more definition. The mouth have some overlap into the muzzle rather than. So I never really liked when it's like this and like, oh, here's the mouth, because it's like there's no shape to that. So it's like, here's the mouth and then here's the chin, you know. So that's what I did, and just the jawline, forehead, all that sort of nice stuff.
yeah.
And then just extended the body to match with where I've drawn the draw now. Because I see a lot of people doing this where the draw is like really far forward from where the neck is.
Yeah, I think the only thing, like, if you wanted to keep like your style, just get rid of some of that chin. If you could think of a pony being divided up, usually the muzzle, since they're really small, are actually about 1/3 to 1/4 of the bottom half of the head circle. So it wouldn't see here, the way I see it here for you is that you divided it completely in half. So I think that's why you have such a large muzzle there. And yes, stallions tend to have larger muzzles, but I think you could cut it down a bit and just get that nice MLP style, smaller snout, and that way you get rid of that chin. Because I do think the chin is a bit too thick, too far down.
Yeah, you can still have sort of a bit closer to where I've drawn and have different styles of face. Some more feminine than others. Have that stallion chin. Yeah. I do struggle a little bit with side view myself. It used to be like the easiest thing to do. Well, I think front view is like the easiest thing to do, followed by side view, and then like third quarter was like the hardest thing ever. And now like I love third quarter. I hate front view. Yeah.
I think that's all there is to say. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
awesome work. Very cute.
All right. On to the one on the right of this. CPC, that's the hand that your pencil's in.
I was thinking, but there's only one way to go.
I'll give it you a clue. It's the only option.
So this is by Advest MB. Finally managed to make something in a stance other than standing. Look good. Oh, that's other than standing. Look good. have a default-looking sitting pose.
Maybe they're just proud of themselves. Yeah, no. Yeah, so this sitting pose is very tricky. I struggle with it so much. So like, props to you for doing this. I also think, looking at this, you've got some really good like what's that called? Like is it proportions?
Portions?
Force perspective. It's perspective. Yeah,
force
you got you got some really good perspective going on. It's actually like it's maybe a little bit too exaggerated, which oftentimes is like hard to do. And we actually tell people to exaggerate things to get a better handle of control on them. So like you're on the right track. Can never tell if the legs are like supposed to stick straight forward or go completely flat down or somewhere between them. I think you can be sort of creative with it. So I'm experimenting with a little bit more of a turn down.
Turn down for what?
Also, these, yeah, I always felt like these, if you have the legs sort of in front like this, like they're not leaning forward enough to have the legs actually, the front legs actually straight. I'll draw some posing on the side in a second, and I feel like they sort of need to lean forward a little bit, like they're resting on their tummy. I'm just gonna do a little bit of sketching. Let me just pick a secondary color I can use for under sketching. No, if draw power would remember my color choices, that'd be very helpful. Okay. And I can never see my pen when it's so small. I did a little bit there.
It's just pinks and blues all the way down.
So this is how I sort of imagine a sitting pose. I'll do it sort of more third quarter so we can see. There's the shoulder. I've got a head up here somewhere. That's not important. So the front legs sort of come mostly down. I always give a little bit of a curve to the front legs anyway, but they're mostly like sat. Oh, this is terrible, but if you get the idea. Yeah, there we go. And then the rear legs come like this, and maybe you would stick up, or maybe they would go straight down on the ground. I don't know. And the back would be kind of bent like this, and ignore where that head position was initially because that's not right. Sometimes you have to start drawing and then you realize, oh, this is how it goes. So then the head would be like here. Like, hello, pony. Ooh.
So your outside eye is very good. It's well placed. That's often a thing that people have issues on, especially early on. I think I would just give a little more shape to the muzzle and just try and bring. So your head's on a bit of a turn already based on where your eyes are. So I would just turn the muzzle, or make sure the muzzle follows that, because you went side muzzle, but you had your eyes done on like a 30-ish degree angle. And don't forget that back ear. It sometimes gets covered by the mane, but because this is a bald pony with not even a little sign of a tail, yeah, I'd stick the other ear in there. Especially if it's just a under sketch of the body. Ellie, is that the one from Jazz Wolf?
Yep.
Awesome.
I would recommend. At least this is work for me, and just a minor bit of advice. Isn't anything too important, but with the under sketching, like do both ears. You can put a little bit of detail into the front ear if you want, but don't go too far. But definitely only sort of lightly outline where the back ear is, because then when you're doing the mane, you can feel free to just like completely cover it up or partially cover it up. But so many times I've drawn both ears. I've like drawn the pony completely bald and drawn everything, like the eyes, ears, everything. And it's like, oh, this is like so good. I'm so happy with this anatomy. And then like the one of the eyes and like the back ear and part of the front ear like all have to be like covered up. And it's like, no. So I start like trying to bend the mane to not cover it up, but then it's like going wrong and just being awful. And it's like, I shouldn't be doing this. I should just cover up the ear. But I'm sad to lose the ear. So like, don't make yourself have to sacrifice anything. Just outline where the ear's gonna go. Draw it later if it is visible. I hope my little pose sketch at the side helps a little bit. I'm not very good with these sitting poses at all, but I hope it helps you sort of understand the posture a little bit more. I mean, like what you've drawn is acceptable. It's just like they're leaning back a little bit more of a relaxed sort of way. So just like to keep that in mind. There are different postures that they can have even in the same pose. Two ponies could be standing in like 18 different ways, with like their legs not in very different positions, but still look different.
So just keep going on what you're doing. Like, don't stop drawing. You gotta keep drawing. Gotta keep improving. Don't be afraid to use references. Use, abuse, and love your references.
Yes. 100%. Like I think that would be your best friend at the stage, and maybe you did use a reference for this. Like use multiple references. Just always like think, okay, what's the pose I'm doing? Can I find this pose and like look up? There will be places online you can Google. You can search on WPoro. They'll sometimes have like specific tags. Just make sure you also include the safe tag. And I think didn't you guys you had like another like reference specific site or something? I always forget the URL. It's like MLP
Pony
references or
Reference
something.
Bureau.
Ah, there we go.
You can find it on the sidebar.
There's that as well. So there's lots of ways you can get some like good references of like particular poses and everything, and then just that will really help you to like look at how there's. You don't need to look at the picture and think, okay, oh my god, how am I supposed to draw what this amazing artist is? Like, nah, don't look at the whole picture that this artist has drawn. Don't think about all that because that's not what you're doing right now. What you're doing is just looking at like how they're positioning like the body parts, and you don't even have to get that right, but it's just to help give you a guideline so you know where you're going. You know, you're not just like aimlessly wandering trying to figure it out.
Something you can also do is drawing over your references. And I'm not saying go and trace the lines.
Yeah.
I'm saying like break it down, like where the head is, kind of get a feel, draw a circle there, and maybe for the arms, break them down into some cylinders or rectangles if you don't even want to jump into that 3D atmosphere yet. So don't be afraid to draw over it. It's a lot different than tracing, and it's more just to get a feel for the piece. Then you can go over to your like piece of paper and then kind of look at like how I broke it down and then apply that to drawing.
It does. Going into it sort of feels like, oh, how will that really help though if it's like a separate thing from what I'm drawing? But it really does like give you an idea, and that you start to piece together little bits, and it just helps you get a feel for how the pencil moves, and how things are meant to be positioned.
It's like it's a basic breakdown instead of like, oh wow, look at this intricate curve with shading and color. It's like, oh no, it's a circle with a rectangle and a little triangle.
Exactly. Like you can learn a little bit like this from tracing, but this is basically a much more efficient thing to like Ali was saying, to break down the structure of the body into shape so you understand it better. So it can really help. Otherwise, keep it up.
All right, let's slide on down this page to this changeling.
Let me turn that later on. If I turn it off, does everyone else see it turned off?
No, I don't see it turned off.
There we go.
Perfect. Yeah, because I believe, yes, they had a question if the shading in the cave makes sense in this picture.
Given the fact that I'm trying to figure out like where the background is falling and like what's behind her, I would say no. Just because it like hasn't immediately jumped out, so like what I'm looking at. If that makes any sense. Like I like the light beams, and especially the speckles of dust in it. That's gorgeous. But the shading itself, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be just like a wall, like a generic cave wall, or if there's like an opening there.
I think something that could really help is kind of, I love how you have these like god rays coming through the cave, but maybe somewhere in the background we see like a hole where these god rays come through. Even if it's not for the god ray, the main one we're seeing, but for ones in the back, kind of to tell us that story that like, oh, this cave has holes and it's near a surface. Where like light's coming through, because right now it's just kind of like darkness and then lights.
Because I didn't even realize that was like a distant background in there until you pointed that out. Where I absolutely have some cracks and stuff, and then we can have some light beaming through, and then it makes sense. And you can have then you can have let me see if I can pick an appropriate color. You can have some of these background. That is not a pen. What is happening? Oh, I'm on the wrong there. You can have some of the rocks reflecting some of the light as the god rays are coming in, and it's like, oh, now I can sort of see it a little bit. We're just getting like a little hint of what's going on in the background from these lights coming in. If that makes any sense.
Completely agree.
If it was a wall, oh sorry, Eddie.
No, I completely agree with you. Yeah, more context of what's going on.
Because that was the thing. That's why I said no, was specifically because I couldn't really figure out what I was looking at. So anything to help the viewer figure out what they're looking at can be like the huge difference here. I was going to say, if it was a wall that we were looking at and not like a distant background of cave, like hills and whatever, then you can have like a god ray in the foreground hitting like the wall on the back, and like highlight some rocks that are being hit by the beam of light, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And Jazzle says, I'm not really good with backgrounds. I was just making one randomly. And well, the way to get good at them is keep trying. It may not be the best, but you tried it, and we're giving you some ideas for your next one, and you'll just build on it from there. And when you keep trying and trying, you'll get better and better. And like we always preach, references. Go get yourself a cave. Like go out there. It could be like
go live in a cave.
Go live in a cave. First-hand experience.
Yeah, a mountain hermit.
Oh God.
Yeah,
not condone.
Yeah, you don't have to be mountain hermit. You don't have to worry about judgment from us. Like, we're not here to grade you on your art, but we hope we can give you some ideas and advice on where you can move forward and what ways you might be able to improve the best. And it's up to you to find that improvement. But we hope to give you some guidelines.
Yeah.
If I can suggest, you said you just sort of did the background randomly. My suggestion is, when you're planning out it, thumbnail your picture, and that includes thumbnailing the background. So just your character should make sense for the context of the background and what's going on around them. It's very easy to set that up early on with your thumbnails. Thumbnails are as simple as a few sketches laid down, nothing detailed. Don't worry about getting stuff right. The idea is just to help you plan for as you work into the picture. Yeah, thumbnails. Don't be afraid of them. You got any other questions there for us, Jazz Wolf?
Yeah, I feel like this is just random throwing out, but I feel like 90% of people who struggle with backgrounds tend to just do them as an afterthought. And that's kind of why they don't turn out as good as someone would hope, because you're not putting the same amount of effort into it as you would with a new drawing.
And it's not even a matter of it's not even a matter of just drawing the the order that you draw things in, and it's harder to put a background in afterwards or anything. It's like you said, it's just a matter of like it being like, oh, I'm just gonna see if I can throw a background on because it'll look better than the white or whatever. And then it's like you don't know what you're doing. You don't want to make a huge commitment to it because you don't really know what you're doing. And so like you just sort of end up lost and just throw things on and hope they stick. But it's much easier to begin with if you just like throw up a photo and think like, how can I reference this? Maybe even look at like paintings of cave background or something like that to see different people's approach to how they can interpret, how to display this background. Might give you some ideas on how you can be creative with it.
I've even done stuff where I take a screenshot from a video game I really like that has like a nice aesthetic for environment.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the character in question is a changeling who doesn't do well with the sunlight. My suggestion with that, play on that. Bring them towards the background a bit more, out of the sun, because you've shined these god rays down past them. Instead of shining it on them, pull them backwards. And what that means is you're just going to have the ambient occlusion light hitting them, which is a very soft, mellow light. It doesn't create harsh shadows at all. It's just sort of what's reflected off the environment around it. The hive from Lion King too. That's actually a very, if you're to back them out of the light and you'll just be catching most of their features with a sort of soft light, it might work a bit better for the scene. And you'll put the very hard, bright light onto objects surrounding them instead. So placing something in front to sort of give the context of very bright light versus the darker light behind them. Darker light, less light. Yeah, words.
Words.
All right, let's go on to the next one. It's really. What's happening down here? More horse. All right,
Of course.
Fluttershy Discord.
This is very cute.
I
It's
love
like a
this one. It's-
storybook.
Yeah, I love the art style. This is so cute.
So this is by Edgy Horse and Crazy Coloration Effect. Yay or nay?
I
say
think
yay.
if you like it, go for it. At that point, it's very stylized. If you like it, I think it's fun. I mean, really, it's like if you want to try something else, go for it. Why not? But this is also fun. So
It gives me
means
the
experiment.
feeling of a memory rather than like a picture.
Yeah, true. It's easy to sort of remember things in stylized ways. It's and I think in art it like shows like we're not seeing something exact as we would be when we're seeing like the show. It's just like a matter of it's like respective, so like we see like the MLP show and it's like okay, this is what we're seeing, this is like the world, this is what the world looks like. But if we see something like the like little pointy chibi style or something, or like something like this, and it feels like either something being like a story being described to the characters or a memory or something. Whereas in another thing, if it was more of like a live action or a fancy CG cartoon or whatever, and we saw like MLP style animation, it would have the same effect, I think going simplistic has that effect of I'm just describing details right now.
yeah. I don't know why, but like just that little floof on Fluttershy's tail, like right here, purple's like
Yeah,
her
I
color
love
symbol.
that.
I know, I just like I absolutely love that. It really gives the volume. It
Cute.
gives me that feeling of like soft, voluptuous hair.
I don't really want to talk about the character's proportions in that because it works well with how you've set up the scene.
I think I agree.
Yeah.
I think the only critique is, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's good? Because up to the artist's art is made by the artist's decision. We could tell you yes or no, but that doesn't make it good or bad. It's up to you.
Well, that was a different critique. Let's a different critique, as in we didn't actually like red line this at all. We just sort of talked. I hope that's okay. If you have any specific questions about it, feel free to fire us a message. You know where you can find us on both Discord and Reddit. Yeah.
I know, Maze. It is a shock. Art is indeed made by the artist.
I personally just use the stamp tool. Stamp Control T here. All right, our last picture in this lineup is by Gallon Arts. I think I pronounced their name right last time, and this time I did it wrong. So this is practice doodles, trying to draw a character with more life and expression. Also, I want to improve technical skills with shape and flow, so any help or methods of capturing different angles, proportions, and expressions would be greatly appreciated. I really enjoyed the critique I got on my first post.
Nice.
So they have actually posted to our subreddit too. They've done some really cool art. I don't know if you saw their last post in critique, I think it was. Somewhere up there. Anyway, where was it? Art? I don't remember. It was the Rainbow Dash and Scoots one. Just ridiculously nice. The shading method and good. It's good. 10 out of 10 would stick on a wall. But we aren't talking about that picture. We're talking about this picture. So let's talk these facial expressions that you're building up here. I love when people do this, working on a style and trying to solidify that and figure out how it works as the character
Like
moves
drawing a
about.
lot.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always a trap to sort of think because I think because when you're trying to design something, you sit there and you have a picture and you want to change what's on that picture to make it look right. But I think coming up with an idea and then drawing it a bunch of times like this in little sketches is definitely the way to go, and I definitely need to practice doing that more.
Also, painted horse is adorable.
Yes, best kind of horse. I am not biased because my horse is. um. I mean, these eyes here feel like they go off to me to the side, but it's just because like they have the natural like angle of the nose bridge anyway, and then they have like the angled outside, and so like when you tilt them down to the side, it like does that. I'm not sure. So it also should have quite a hefty bend from this direction because of the mouth. I see you've done like a little bit of that in there, but just so like emphasize.
I think on this side it's a bit.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I feel like it should be maybe a little bit more upwards
Yeah, I think
anyway,
it's
like you were
just
doing.
slightly. Because they have a little bit of a turn, but I think that's too much.
Yeah.
It's like it's falling off the face.
Yeah, it is important to because it's very like anime eye shape. But it's important to remember that what we're seeing is the bridge of the nose. And that's way more easy to see in Pony. You booped everything.
That she's crying in the one. You booped her to tears.
Oh no.
She's trying to boop her. Do a head pat.
Pet pet. So if I remember correctly, Ellie, you did mention they wanted to work on just the overall flow and like ease of expressions and poses and such, right?
Yeah.
So the big thing I would say there is dial back how detailed sketches are. When you want to capture flow, I know gesture sketching is something that's thrown around a lot. Gesture sketching is all about capturing that flow. And usually it's just bringing something down to the bare bones, the bare minimum. You got the basis. It's not even 100% correct anatomy all the time, but it's the basis of the idea of the anatomy. But the thing that takes over is the movement and the flow. So the same can be done with expressions as well, but we work on simplifying them, because the second we start focusing on the details, it starts to get, a little bit rigid. It's like trying to draw a drawing without really doing a sketch first. You're just focusing on getting those perfect, like if you're doing line art, getting that perfect line art. So you lose that rigidity, and that's something that a lot of people sometimes complain that their sketches look better than their line art, is because the sketch is a lot more free and fluid than their line art, because their line art's focusing so much on being this clean thing instead of the loose flowy sketch. So my advice if you want to work on flow is to be a little looser and simpler, and then build up from that and see how you can keep that flow translating into a more detailed, like building it up to a more detailed look.
I would also point you towards our sidebar. If you scroll down to the community participation tab, there's all bi-weekly challenges, and our fifth one is highly relevant to this. So our fifth one, as the people on the stream can see, it's about doing expressions. It's got this nice little expression sheet for you to do up. The 25 expression challenge. At this point, I hope everyone's seen one of these things. Basically, it has a list of 25 expressions, and your goal is to redraw the faces like that. It's a great challenge just for building up a library yourself of expressions. Because sometimes practice can be very annoying when you don't have direction.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyone else got any critique? Any art they'd like critiqued? Any other questions they'd like to ask? I do this once. Oh, yeah. The expression one. I mean, even going back later and redoing it is always a good thing. I think I've done it 2 or 3 times now. It's good. Good stuff.
It's really fun to challenge yourself with like the super subtle emotions. Those are hard.
Or I've seen the one where it was only done through body language. You weren't allowed to do a face.
Ooh.
That one was pretty
That's
intense.
Sounds interesting.
You should do that, Crispy. Do it traditionally.
With all the derpy faces.
Alright, well, seeing as no one else has any other art to throw at us, I think we'll be calling this a day. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.